back in school, I had a fierce competitor. So 3 years of my high school, I was a sports captain for 2 years, and she was a sports captain for 1 year. All sports we played together, and it would always be cat and mouse. First she would finish, or second me, and then vice versa. And our physical education master, he always used to say, Radhika is going to do something in life in sports, because she was really good and she was much more talented than me. But now she's married, she has 2 children, and she has got obese because she doesn't have the time to go out and do it. She had some issues with her pregnancy. So she called me up after this Everest run when it came out in the newspaper, and she said, I'm so proud that you're doing what I couldn't do. So it might look like a selfish thing when you leave your in-laws, my husband, for 4 weeks and you go and do it. But I think it's gone beyond doing it for yourself now. So I feel very privileged to have this opportunity of being able to do it for somebody else.
True.
So when I was tired, my mom is not keeping well from some time. She's been ailing with a terminal issue. So we found out about in late December, and I've been struggling to manage my discipline with running. I've not been able to do it because it's life-threatening, and what's the purpose of just following my passion? But she's so proud of what I'm doing, and she always keeps telling me that she's a homemaker. Although she wanted to do something independently and probably contribute to the family, she couldn't do it, considering the stigma in the society, and also how my dad was like, you don't have to work, I'll manage. So she feels very happy that I'm somewhere filling her small unfulfilled dream of being able to do something.
Right. I am Baiki Venki, and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. Today's guest, Ashwini Bhat, is an amazing ultra runner from Bangalore. Having worked in IT for 9 years, this one-time project manager quit her corporate career to pursue her passion and traveling solo. She now runs ultra distances and coaches a select group of athletes. She recently hiked solo and self-supported to the Everest Base Camp and then completed the 60 kilometers Himalayan Extreme Ultra. She has a national record for women in 12-hour races, and she is representing India at the Asia and Oceanic Ultra Running Championship. In this episode, Ashwini shares about her incredible journey and what she learned from her successes as well as her failures. She talks candidly about her fight with bouts of depression and fears as she pursues her ambitious goals and aspirations. It was a deeply touching story. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you will too. Now, let us get into my conversation with Ashwini. Welcome to the Working Athlete Podcast, Ashwini. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Venki. I'm really glad to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Ashwini, let us start by talking about your relationship with sport as a kid, schooling, college, or throughout.
I come from a very orthodox Brahmin family. But then my dad was very different, and he always encouraged me in sport. It was good that I was also interested. It was not just he was pushing. So anything to do with the outdoor, I would always be playing. So there have been many times when I would come back from school, and it used to be called the pinafore, right, for the girls. So my mom would be like, okay, show where all you've fallen today. So I have played pretty much all sports till my school, till the 10th standard. So except for basketball and football, we had cricket also. Because I studied in a girls' high school. So cricket, hockey, kho-kho, everything under the sun, everything outdoors. So yeah, very much outdoor girl, and grew up like a tomboy. But I enjoyed it.
Right. So, how was it through college and stuff? Did it
So
continue? Usually
yeah,
it takes a break, but yeah.
I did continue it till my engineering days. So it was first year engineering, and then my mom had come along with us to. So we had a collegiate university meet, for which I think it was in Hassan or something. So from Bangalore, a team of us had traveled to Hassan, and we participated. And then my dad was like, "Okay, this is enough. Just focus on your studies. You'll have to get serious about it because, I mean, let's be frank, you don't have a career in sport now. Now that you are pursuing, I was in engineering at that time. So, all that is good. Stay fit, stay healthy, but that's not going to be a career path. So, that's when it completely stopped. And
After first year of engineering.
yeah, so 2003 was my last time that I played pretty much athletics, and I was into discus throw a lot.
Okay.
I had played district level and hockey. I played straight limbs in
Okay.
my school.
Mhm.
So I loved sport as a
Nice,
child.
nice. Okay, so that relationship with sport took a break after first year of engineering, and then after engineering, how did that go? You got into work.
Yeah, so campus selection happened like the normal process of how a South Indian child would go about. You do engineering in the final third semester, sixth semester, you get into your campus and all of that. But I was very active in extracurriculars in my first company. So it was Tech Mahindra that I joined at that time. And we had this team called Josh. So we used to organize all kinds of events to do anything apart from work. That was the whole idea. So Friday evenings we would have movies showcased in the cafeteria. I mean, that was a time when we didn't have Netflix or theaters were the only platform of going, right? So old classics we used to play, and if there are new joiners, so we had sports events also that would happen every year. So that is where it got rekindled after that break of 3 years from my engineering days. But it's never at college or school level. You
Okay.
just so it was like I was the biggest fish in this the small pond. So I would win every event that I would get into because I had a background, and most of them were just huffing puffing, and I would be like, okay, what more can we do now? So it was that.
Right, right. So you worked in IT for 9 years,
Yeah.
and then you kind of participated in these smaller corporate events and stuff. But did you during this time did you also take part in events outside, like TCS 10K or something like that?
No, none. So it was, I was in my last company that I worked with, and KTPO has this midnight marathon, which happens at 12 o'clock. And the organizers came to our company and convinced our CEO that you should send some people. So our CEO got all excited. He was like, okay, there's something, let's do it. And they spent a lot of money. I think it was 1.5 lakhs or something that they paid. They got a counter. And he called me in because he knew I was someone who was always interested. I was into project management at that time. And I always believe that it's not just work. You should also have some kind of passion. So he called me in and he said, okay, I need 30 people. You're one of them. We have 2.5 months time. Get yourself trained, train the people in whatever way you can, and you're all running a 10K. So it was a company sponsored event. That was my debut into running. And I'm so thankful for it because I fell in love with running, and there has never been looking back after that.
Right. So that 10K kind of rekindled your love for sport again.
Yeah.
Okay. So from there, how did it progress? And which year was this?
So this was 2014. December is when it happens. So a year and a half After that, I was still working,
Hmm.
but I would attend every single event that was happening in Bangalore.
Okay.
That was a time when running had really picked up, and every weekend there would be a 10K or a half marathon happening. And my husband was also very supportive. He's a foodie, so he would always accompany me. I would run the 10K, and he would be at the start line. 10K, it's pretty quick, an hour or so. We're just loitering around, and it's over. And then we would have breakfast together and come home. So happy days. He would always come. That continued until I think September. Yeah, September. So I had pretty much done, I think, 12 events within a span of like 8 months. And
That is September 2015.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Bangalore doesn't have a diversity in with respect to routes. So it was always Cubbon Park, MG Road, and I got bored by then. Like you can imagine, 12 events and I think 2 or 3 different routes, pretty much running the same thing, and you're looking at the same kind of landscape, and you make some friends. That's when I decided that okay, probably I should take it up a notch and try half marathon. But I didn't want to do a road race. And I was very bored at Bangalore running the same routes. So I looked up on the internet. I had no idea about trail running and what it was. And Chennai Trail Marathon popped up.
Okay.
So I discussed with my husband saying that there's a half marathon. They had a 50K as well, which Peter Van Gate used to organize as part of CTC. And he had some commitments, my husband. So he said, do you think you can manage on your own? It's like, yeah, I'll just travel from here by train and do the run and come back. So I did that run. It was a trail run and absolutely fell in love with trail running. Coming from a road background, it was such a refreshing change running in paddy fields, and you're not really bothered about time. Until then, I had also got into a little bit of a rut of every time you're doing a run, you're like posting on social media with the medal and all the nuances of beginner's enthusiasm. And that changed for me when I did that half marathon, because I saw it was not about time, it was about how much I could enjoy. And I told myself, this is more interesting than running shorter distances or doing road. So I should look for more of these.
That is your first half marathon distance on a trail.
Yes.
Okay. So that got you in love with trail running and longer distances, also from 10K to 21K. So and that was around in 2015.
Yeah, 2015.
Okay. So and from then on, what was the journey like? How did that half marathon kind of end up with longer?
Yeah, it happened so that I was interested to do more events because I didn't have groups that I was training with, or I didn't have any plan. I was not running with a structured training, strength training. I had no clue that you have to strength train. I mean, as a kid, I used to run. It's very natural, right, running. So I just felt, okay, I just have to put some training. So once or twice or thrice a week, whenever I could find time. I was still working, at that time. So I would just do that. And then if there was an event and it was feasible, I would just go run it. So after that, again, I was looking for trails, and Kaveri Trail Marathon was happening in November. So I went and ran that. So each trail run that I did, it reinstigated that fire in me that somehow, so we come from the Malnad region in Karnataka, so my dad is from there. Although I was born and brought up here, I still identify myself as
What
a
place in
Malnad girl.
Malnad?
Sagara.
Okay.
So Joke Falls, and
Okay.
so we always used to go there for our summer holidays, spend time at my
I
grandparents.
just went to Kalasa and spent
Yeah, I
3
saw that on
days,
Instagram and really nice.
It's so beautiful there.
So much of greenery all around.
Yeah.
So I think that thing of nature being your drive was always there, but I never knew it. We used to go as kids. I think we took it for granted that we have this privilege. Drink soap water so pure that the tap is never turned off. So you've been to Kalasa. So my grandparents' place near Kargil, the tap down never turns off because they have a pipe right from where the water source is.
Wow.
So initially when I went there and I could think a little, I was like, water's getting wasted. And everyone used to laugh. So trail running, I realized that I had endurance. I was not targeting time at all after my first half marathon, where I realized that it's nowhere in comparison to what people usually target to do. I was running happy, I was injury free, and I always wanted to go back. So I took that as a sign that, yeah, probably this is what running should do to you. And after Kaveri Trail Marathon, I was like, okay, people were going back for the second loop. And I was doing the half marathon, which is just one loop. And I thought, okay, I still have energy. Maybe I can do more. So usually people have two ways of looking at things. Either you improve your time or you go higher in the distance. Right? So that felt a more viable approach for me. And I decided that, okay, let me try and see if I can train for a full marathon. Still unstructured training and still doing the same. And Feb 2016 is when I decided that I think I want to quit my job. So 6 months prior to that is when I gave a notice to my boss, the most understanding and very sweet boss that I had working in that last company. And he knew me and the character that I am. So he was like, I think you need a vacation. Just go take a vacation and come back. I was like, no, I'm very serious. I feel I want to do something else in life. And what that is, I didn't know at that point. I had got into photography, I think about a year prior. My husband and I did a lot of motorbiking trips. So we purchased a new Royal Enfield, so you know the drill. Everyone goes to Ladakh, and we did the same. So we did Ladakh, the whole circuit, and we reached Srinagar, from where we had to parcel the bike and take a flight. But then I felt this is a great opportunity for us to experience it. Maybe we'll never do it again in our life. And I convinced my husband, saying that another 4 days of leave, we'll somehow manage it. And we canceled the flight and rode back from there.
Wow.
So, I have to mention my dad. So while growing up, he always considered, and he used to tell us that you should never be denied of a skill just because you are a girl. You should never be saying, oh, I can't do this because my dad didn't teach me, or I don't know because I'm the weaker gender. So he taught me how to ride a bike when I was in my first PU. So when I was 15, I got my LL. So he sat behind in the Hero Honda Splendor. I learned how to ride a bike. So with my husband, who wasn't a very outdoor person, he used to do a lot of hiking. Until then, although my dad was very encouraging of me doing sport or anything, I didn't have a social life outside. I had to finish college, half an hour, I have to be home. So very orthodox Brahmin family. So he always thought that you'll get spoiled if you go out, don't have too many friends and all of it. But my husband, once I met him in my first company, I realized that nature really brings me alive. So this trail running and all of it actually rekindled that fire that I want to be in nature more. So a lot more hiking all around Bangalore, whatever 1 day hikes that were there, we had done all of it, and then Kumara Parvata. So it was going well. I was into running. My husband, no, not till that point. So I was working. I was in a very good job. I'd worked outside. I was in Germany for a few months. And I was at a point in my career that it could take off. But then I can't really put a finger on it and say this was the thing. But a question from my grandfather, so my husband's grandfather, where he asked me how much money is required to be happy. We're all earning really well in lakhs and we spend as well. But then I didn't have that much time during my weekdays. You take a vacation, yeah, you do. But then I would commute for 4 hours to 5 hours a day, and again go back home and log in. And I didn't have a family life. So I felt I don't want to live a life of regret. And thankfully, with the skill that my dad had always taught us, it was not like preaching one thing, but it was what he had followed all along with his principles, that if you're courageous enough, you can do anything in life. It need not be the job that you are supposed to. So I had done MBA distance learning, and that's how I got into project management. So I had a double degree, but still I was like, I want to do something else. So this photography thing, at that point, I used to do very small projects for my friends, maternity photo shoots, birthday shoots, like no money. I had a camera, when you have a DSLR and all your friends are like, can we get a photo shoot done? So I had done those, and at that point I thought maybe I'll just do this for some time and see how that goes. So professionally, I decided to take up photography. Quit my job, travel solo for 3 months.
So before, sorry to interrupt, but before we get there, you kind of cut short that Ladakh trip where you
Yeah.
guys decided you want to, ride back
back.
instead of flying back. So what were some of the, what were some of the memorable things that you remember from that trip?
All my friends tell me
Oh.
that I'm a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on and on and on. So I'm happy that you interjected and stopped me there. But going back to Ladakh, it just blew our mind. It was something that we had never experienced. We had no clue. One of our friend, Milind, he was into the outdoors and he was into a lot of motorbike rides. I think he had done 7 states or 8 states by then. So he was the one who had done Ladakh bike trip, I think a year or two prior. And this was in 2014. When I was quitting, but back to the Ladakh trip, I think just after our marriage, so it was 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So we contacted him. We're like, we're interested to go to Ladakh. Just give
Okay.
us some details.
Mm.
So we met at Coffee Day, and a couple of our cousins who were also interested. So we had 3 bikes, 4 of us. So my husband and I on one bike and 2 of them single. We overpacked so much for that bike trip. I mean, we had so much of luggage. We went there, and it's a desert. And Ladakh, the whole cultural shock that we had, it's part of India, but somehow it felt like a foreign country because everything is so different, and the food is different. You're gasping for air because it's at high altitude. We were scared. We took Diamox for a couple of days. A lot of things, a lot of jitters and all of it. But just to sum it up, it was an eye-opener for my husband and I. So it was 18 days planned trip, and then additional 5 days of extension thanks to all the convincing. So it made us feel that there is more to life than just the cubicle.
Mm.
Both of us coming from an electronics and communication background, he's also from the same thing. It's like you study, you get a job, you get married, you settle down, you take an apartment, you have this whole thing list written down for you, and you're expected to follow it. And we were at this juncture where we were like, oh, there is something else also than what we had thought life is about. Because we've seen our own cousins grow up, who move to the US or do their future studies, and then they settle down. So that's a life path that you've always seen. So this was like a very refreshing change, and we felt we want to do more. So that began that adventure fire in us, and consequent years we did a lot of bike trips as well.
Right. Okay. So, and coming to the thought of quitting and taking photography, as a professional this thing career. You were saying that you traveled solo. How was that experience?
So this was coming from a background of me traveling with my husband quite a lot.
Right.
So the motorbike trips itself,
Correct.
although my father-in-law was always scared that my husband's hairline is going down because of the helmet usage. He always used to say, "Why are you doing so much of trips? Because you're losing hair now." But then, so the whole of coast of Kerala, the complete coast of Tamil Nadu, complete Rajasthan. So we had done all of it, and I was raving to explore the mountains. So when I decided to quit, and before I venture, so it was sort of, I can call it my second life, because till then it's more you're just treading the path that has been laid for you. Because I did my engineering because my dad wanted me to. I was not very keen on it. I wanted to get into the medical field. I'm very interested in science, but I was not a very good engineer, so somehow managed to get into project management and all of that. So I felt that I wanted to go experience the mountains. Now that I was running and I had seen some trails and I knew what they can do to you. So I initially it started out as 3 weeks. My husband and a couple of cousins, we went to Delhi. They spent time for, I think, 1 week. We explored Delhi, Agra and the normal circuit, and then they left. So I had 2 more weeks, and I went to Dharamshala, explored a bit there, and then I was like, oh, I can't do in just 1 more week. I want to extend. So that kept getting, the flights were rescheduled, I think 4 or 5 times, and I ended up doing 3 months.
From 3 weeks to 3 months.
Yeah, 3 weeks to 3 months. But, I have to give it to my in-laws.
Typical, sounds like typical IT scope creep.
Yeah, you should have buffers and all of it. So, but my in-laws were very supportive of it. Even when I told them that I want to quit my job, I was never questioned that why quit such a high-paying job and it's stable and you probably have a good career path and all of it. They were supportive. They asked me, do you know what you want to do? I said, not very clearly, but I think I'll figure it out. And even when I wanted to do my solo travel, so my mother-in-law is a school teacher. So she's a retired school teacher and she has a fascination for places she loves traveling to. So I'd made an itinerary for her for 3 weeks, and just so that she knows where I am and all of it. And she has this atlas at home, like a proper book, the big one, and she would always keep seeing where I am. Oh, she's traveled from here to here. So whenever I would call home. So I had that support, and my husband was also happy about it. So it never felt like, oh, I've quit my job. I'm trying to get into something else, so I need to find my ground quickly. That was never the scenario. So I had the freedom to go and live my heart out, explore places. So I think that trip I did Uttarakhand, Himachal, quite a few places, traveled to the most remote villages, stayed with locals, like just randomly. I would just be walking with my bag and somebody is like, Are beta kahan se ho? Just come sit down, have tea and all of it, and the conversation would go. And I've stayed at strangers' places just like that. And sometimes helping them in their whatever work they have, and a couple of days turned to 1 week in Pondicherry in Uttarakhand, which borders with Nepal. So I have very fond memories of my travel solo, and that also gave me a lot of confidence about what you can do in life. I'd volunteered at a couple of places, a school. So, internet has a lot of information. It's about how we use it. So while on the go, I would just look up, what can you do in this place? Right. It's not just, usually what people do is when you go to a place, places to see around, right? Yeah. And I was like, what else can I do? So, yeah, it was, those solo travels gave me a lot of confidence.
That sounds fascinating journey. 3 years solo, 3 months solo.
I wish it was 3 years.
I know. But
Northeast someday.
Yeah. But it sounds so fascinating, the 3 months, and so refreshing. And what are some of the great memories from there? Like you mentioned, staying with a family for a week. And all that.
Yeah, so one of them was the school that I volunteered at in Palampur, close to Palampur. So it was a home school, so there was no syllabus. So for me, it was like a no-brainer. I could just go out. They had told me that 1 hour in a day you can engage the kids, and they were, I think, range from 4 years to 12 years, and there were 8 kids, not a big number, but then I understood how hard it is to maintain kids or keep them engaged. So we used to do a lot of group discussions. Although the age was like 4 years, what can you discuss?
Yeah.
But then I would say, what did you eat last night? And then they were like, okay, roti, this. And they're like, what didn't you like in that? And things like that. So school was one. And that homeschooling was a new dimension for my perspective. We all come from this background of you have a
Convent
syllabus,
schools. Yeah.
you follow everything, everyone does a test on this date, and it was very, very, the openness was um, fascinating for me, as you were saying. So from there, in my experience of staying at one of the families, I actually saw how much work that goes into in villages. Our city life is much more easier. Everything comes, we pay the price, everything is delivered. You get milk at home, you get newspapers. But there, even for the smallest things, they have to do a lot of work. I think my most favorite of the whole solo travel that I've done so far is a place near Keelang. So on the Manali Leh highway, there is Keelang. That's the first one after you get down from Rohtang Pass. So opposite to that, opposite to Keelang, you have a small village. That's where I went and stayed. So I didn't know that there was a village. I decided that let me go to Keelang and we'll see. And I saw that there's a village and about 15-20 houses. And I asked around, how do I get there? So they said you have to get down the valley, cross the river, and climb up again. It just looks like it's there. So I just took my bag, went there, asked around, but there were no hotels or homestays. I was like, but this is a beautiful, pristine place. Keelang is like on the highway and it's very touristy. A lot of bikers, everyone who's going on the Manali Leh highway goes there. So I wanted to do some runs and explore. This was quite recent. This was like 2 years ago. And one family, they asked me, I was a little worried because it was 4 o'clock and I had to again return if I have to come back to Keelang, and it would take me an hour and a half. So they said, what happened? You look worried. I was like, I'm just trying to find a place to stay. And they were like, how many days do you want to stay? I said, I don't know. It'll depend on whether I can help out. Do you think, is there any work? They were very happy. They said, yeah, just come. And, so they were doing step irrigation and they had potato and peas in their field. So I told them that in a day I can do 3 hours of work. I'm going to pay for the whatever food. They were like, no, you don't have to pay any money. Everywhere I've gone, that's how they always call you as Atithi Devo Bhava. They follow it ardently. It's just not a saying. And there are rocks in the field. They have to remove them first, clear the field, and it's so much of hard work. And it's at altitude, right? It's at, I think, 3,500 or something.
Wow.
And just climbing from here to here only is a hard task.
Right.
And their field is like in the slope.
On the slopes, yeah.
So going down, coming up, I think I did it for 3 days, and the next day I was feverish, just doing 3 hours. And they do it from 5 in the morning till about, I think 4:30 in the evening.
Wow.
So 10 to 12 hours of work.
Yeah.
So all that made me realize that we in the cities, people are so blessed and still we crib about it. Like, with the traffic, we have, unfortunately, I belong to that. I have always felt that we take this privilege for granted. And just to give you an example, villages don't have proper roads. But if you ask someone that on this only the buses come, is it okay? They're like, we didn't have buses earlier and we're having that. So they're so content with whatever they get.
Right.
So
it's all about perspective, right?
Yeah. So for me, it was like, oh, the roads are bad. And just traveling for 30 kilometers would take you like 2 hours or 2.5 hours.
Correct.
Because the road is not that good. But they were like, we didn't have transport. We used to walk. And now we have something. So they're just so happy. I know
Always
this
looking
is
at
getting...
the positive
Yeah.
way of life, right? So that is very fascinating.
I think, one more incident reminds me now that we were talking about this. I reached Dharamshala. That was my first place that I went solo traveling. Before that, I think I had gone to Karkala, which was in Karnataka. That was my solo travel, first debut, I would say.
Right.
But that was to a relative's place.
Testing
I stayed
the
there.
waters.
Yeah, just to see whether I can manage. Many people say this, that I can't even go on my own and eat at a restaurant or just go to a movie. I don't know how people do solo travel. But you're not really alone as such. You're solo. There are so many people around, but it opens a lot of avenues for you to speak to others, know their story, which probably you would not if you're in a group. So I reached Dharamshala. So from Dharamshala to McLeod, which is the hill station above, where His Holiness Dalai Lama's residence is there, is 8 kilometers. So it's like our Nandi. From the base, you have to climb up, but I think it's about 12 kilometers. And there are shared jeeps. Okay. I reached there, I'm like looking around. There are buses as well, but the time I got there, it was already, I think, 3 o'clock or something, and all the buses had left. So I had to take the shared jeep, and 15 people sit in that shared jeep. So along with the driver, you have, so these are Tata Sumos, you have 5 people sitting in the front along with the driver.
Wow.
So there's one person sitting with their legs around the gearbox.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's changing the gear. You have your legs just around it and he's changing it. So I sat down, we went. All along people are getting down, there are stops and all of it. So 3 people got down. So there are 3 spaces vacant now, right? So what's the normal tendency? We've been sitting cramped up. Immediately we would just make some space and like, okay, relax and sit down, right? They don't do that. They're still sitting like that because if somebody wants to get in, they would still have the space.
Right.
That was just amusing for me. I'm like, this is the difference between how as people from the city think and how a villager would think. Because it's not just being comfortable, it's about making space for somebody else.
Yeah. So we all feel very entitled to a lot of things, right? That kind of entitlement is not seen there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you took a break and you started traveling and you wanted to pursue photography as a career from being an IT person. So how did that evolve into pursuing running full time?
So as I said, I was very open with this thought of what I want to do after I quit my job.
Right.
So photography, because I was interested, I had done a few things. And I had an aerial photographer friend who's doing projects. And he said, you can pitch in, I'll call you whenever I get some assignments and we can do it. So I did a couple of corporate engagements, CSR projects for Schneider. So we had to travel to these remote villages bordering Orissa and Andhra and document the work they've done.
Okay.
So installing solar panels and how they have actually lit up the life of villages and all of it, which was a different scenario. Anyway, so I did those projects, but then I did some food photography. So I love cooking, I love experimenting with food. And it came about that someone wanted some photographs of the products that they were selling. So I said, okay, why not? I created a DIY light box at home and I started it. And it's like, this is interesting because, I somehow still feel as a extrovert hidden in an introvert's body. Because I
Yeah.
love solo travel, I love solitude, but I still love meeting people as well. So there's always that fight happening in between. So I felt, okay, I don't have to go out, I don't have to interact with people. So when it comes to photography, you have to do a lot of cajoling the clients, talking to them, look here, look, do this, do that. I've done a
Yeah.
couple of maternity shoots as well. And it's quite demanding. I think it's a profession that's taken quite lightly. People always think, oh, if you have the latest gadgets, you have the best camera, you can be a good photographer.
So you see a fantastic photo and compliment the photographer saying, "What a great camera!"
Exactly.
Instead of the skill.
Yes.
Right?
So
Yeah, you take this and do the same thing and show me.
true. So, and it comes with a lot of expectations now that it's become quite mainstream. You have people doing photography assignments for numerous things now, which was not the case earlier.
Right.
So it became quite demanding for me, and it felt like I was again going back to the same kind of loop of deadlines. So I had to deliver within this date, and there were commercials involved and all of it. So the whole reason why I came out of IT was getting sabotaged there. So I think after a year of doing all of that, and which I really enjoyed, I decided that I think I want to do something more independent, where I'm not answerable to anybody. Nobody has to direct me on how a post should be. There have been scenarios where that has happened, where the client would tell me that we want to pose this way. And you would do it and they were like, still not okay.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of those. And I'm like, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work for anybody else, not really succumb to deadlines and have pressure. So running was happening. And by then I had progressed to full marathon. And the first full I did was Chennai Trail Marathon again.
Okay. Which year was this?
This was 2017.
Okay.
So 2016, 1 year after my half marathon,
Right.
I decided, I think it's time for the full. Let's go, let's see what happens. And I again went there and did it. So I decided maybe running is my thing.
Yeah.
I had not realized, I have to tell you, although I had done about maybe 30 events by then, some half marathons here and there, and
A few while you were working in IT, and then as you were exploring
Yes.
the other part of the
yeah.
life.
So whenever I traveled, even my solo travels, I've picked a few of them where there were events happening. So it's a good way to explore as well. You
Right.
go explore the place and then run and explore much more and come back with more memories.
Right.
So I'd done all that, and then I felt that running seems to be good. And by then I had the realization that I had good endurance. I was not fast. I mean, you put me in a race with half marathoners or marathoners, I would probably be very much midfield or very much at the back. But then I had a lot of endurance, and after finishing my full, I realized that I still had quite a lot of energy. Probably also because I was not pushing myself so much.
Right.
Like many people have this thought process that give it all. Like you finish at the when you come to the finish line, you're like dead. You don't have energy left.
Right.
But my principle always was to enjoy it and finish with energy, because next day I want to go back to my normal life. I don't want to be injured. I don't want to be taking off from anything that I'm doing just because I did an event. That was my the crux of the thought process there. So I decided that, okay, let me try running. And couple of friends approached me saying that you're running so much, you quit your IT job and probably you're jobless now. Why don't you train? So I said, okay, it sounds like something, but I had no formal training. I had not done any certifications or anything. But in that 2.5 years of my running career, I never got injured, and I had always progressed further, so to say, in distance-wise.
Right.
So I said, okay, and I think initially it was only women that I trained. and not for running.
Mm.
It was just fitness.
Okay.
Just get out. Some of them who are not even doing their walks, I would prepare a plan for them and give to them and say you have to walk 4 times a week with varying intensities, and then gradually add some small jogs into them. And by then, some wisdom had prevailed, and I had started including some workouts into my routine as well. When you're doing shorter distances, your body is still okay.
Right.
But as you up the mileage and when you're doing really hard things, you have to take care of your strength training. So that's how running seemed like a very lucrative option for me, because I was doing that and nothing else interested me at that point. So I thought,
Awesome. So you started and did your first full marathon in 2017, right? And then you were looking for beyond that as well, and then the ultra distances happened. So what was your first ultra, and how did that?
so before that, I heard of this triathlon,
Okay.
this bug of triathlon.
Yeah.
So through the Chennai Trekking Club, they used to do a lot of outdoor events.
Right.
I think till that 2017-18 period, they were the most active in all of India, I would say.
They were doing treks, they were doing running events, they were doing triathlon events.
Yes.
So
And at really cost-effective prices.
Right.
So I didn't know how to swim. So the backstory is that I'm always up for a challenge. And when I went for my, I think, half marathon debut, that's when I heard about triathlon. I had no clue there was a sport called triathlon, although I was an athlete in my school. I mean, you never know that people can be so crazy that they can put together 3 different disciplines and make it a sport. So I heard that they organize it every year in December, and September is when I did it. So I was like, maybe I can try. It's cycling, running and swimming, but I didn't know how to swim. So I always used to blame my dad, saying that you never taught me how to swim. And it's such a life skill. So it just dawned upon me that what's stopping me to learn swimming now?
yeah.
And I don't know if I have to call it dumb or courageous or what. But I told myself, if I don't have a really tight challenge, I've always worked well under pressure. You give me a deadline, I'm like, okay, I have to do it, deliver, I can do that. So I signed up for the half Iron triathlon, or rather Olympic first, and then signed up for my swimming classes. So I had 2 months to learn to swim and then do the triathlon. But the saving grace was that in the CTC events, you have a wire running in the center in the open water. There you can rest, which is not the case everywhere because it's ocean or something.
Right.
So you have to rely on your talent. Here it was not the case. So I told myself, even if I get tired, you just do a few strokes. You can hold the wire in the center and rest and then continue.
Yeah, usually they used to use a quarry kind of thing.
Query, yes. Yeah.
They have
I
lake
think
that
it was
form.
Red Hills or
Okay.
one of those. It was a query. It was 1.5 kilometers was the distance for the Olympic that you had to do. So I signed up. I had 2 months. I learned to swim. I wouldn't say like really well, but I could survive. Like you put me in the water, I know I won't drown.
Right.
So I got to the start line and then completed it. Hired a bike. I just went on my own solo from here to Chennai. Hired a MTB. 40 kilometers is not 90 kilometers is
90
not
kilometers.
too much of a distance for cycling. Did that, and then running was anyway natural. So I told myself that just get through swimming. Cycling I had done for 5 years in my school. From my 5th till my 10th, I had cycled every day to school. So I was like, cycling is like, it's easy.
Yeah, chill.
And did that. So I had done the Olympic. And after doing my full marathon, I decided let me do the half. Same story again, did a little bit of training. Fine-tune my swimming a bit. I still have fear of water. Because I think I learned it at when I was 33. So I'm still scared of water, but somehow managed it. But after that half iron, I decided this is not a sport for me. It's so demanding and you need to have a cycle. I didn't have a cycle. I would always hire it once I go to Chennai. And I decided just focus on running. And because I had done the half iron and it had taken me, I think, 8 hours or something. I mean, I was slow, but my whole aim was to finish it and experience the triathlon. It was not about time at all. I decided, okay, I could do a full marathon. I could do a half iron triathlon, which is 21 kilometers of running after these two. 8 kilometers more would get you to an ultra distance. 50k is the first ultra benchmark.
Okay. Yeah, that's the context.
Yeah, so that's how I was like, okay, you've done this. Just do the math, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
You've been out there doing something for 8 hours continuously.
Exactly.
So marathon would be like done in
5 hours, 5.5, whatever time.
Yeah. And then, why not go?
I didn't know if I had the skill to do it. I was like, I have been there, I've done that. So even if I have to walk some and all of it, it should be okay. So I signed up for the Ercard Ultra. That was my first 50k. So my husband and I drove to Ercard, stayed there the night, and next day. So by then the running bug had bit my husband. Rather, it was more like he wanted to know what thrill I find out of running. You know, it's a suffering. That's what most people call it. Like most of my friends say, why would you pay money, sweat, be tired, exhausted, and run? So they just couldn't understand it. So my husband wanted to also experience it. So he had done the 10k at Mysore, I think a year ago. And he also did the half marathon at Bangalore marathon, which was in October. So when I was doing my 50k, he said, let me try the 25. Anyway, I'm coming. I have to wait for you for that long. Maybe half the distance I'll try. So he did the 25 there and I did my 50k. And Ercard is a hill station. And it has a lot of rolling hills, a lot of climbs, a lot of downhills. And by the end of it, I was thrashed, but very happy. So I felt, okay, maybe I should try one more just for safe measure to know if it is my, it's always this thing of golden distance. What's your golden distance? Some people find it at 10k, some find it at half marathon. And I always maintain this, that even if you're running for 10 years, you need not be a marathoner. If 5k gives you the happiness and it keeps you injury free and keeps you fit, just do 5ks. You don't have to progress further, right? So I was still in that exploration phase of wanting to see where my limit lies. The day that I feel that, okay, this is it, I'm not doing any more, that's where I will be like, okay, this is my distance. I was still finding that.
Right. Yeah. So you done more ultras, and what came out to be that golden distance for you?
12 hours.
12 hours.
Yeah.
It's not the distance, but the time.
So 12 hours is something which happens in the stadium. I was introduced to it by chance by Nagaraj Adiga sir. I was doing a lot of some ultras by then. I had done, I think, 3 ultras, 50k distances. And one day I met him at the stadium and he was like, hey Ashwini, I don't see you around in any of our events now. And NEBO usually he's the founder of NEB Sports, which does a lot of events in Bangalore. So I was like, sir, road is very boring for me and I do my running here. This is my training ground, right? And why would I do an event? And shorter distances were not giving me that thrill anymore. So I said, oh, it's boring, sir. And he's like, okay, there's a stadium run coming up. Why don't you come and try? You're anyway doing your ultra distances now, right? I was like, till then, I would always go to Kantirava Stadium, do some running at Cubbon Park, and finish at Kantirava tracks. Because, you get into the tracks and you have this feeling like, I always used to feel like a athlete, like a professional. You just go stand there and like in the movies, you can call me dramatic, but in Chuck Day or any of that kind of adrenaline feeling, although the stands are empty. So I'd always do 2 laps there. That's it. And 2 laps itself was a big thing for me. So when he mentioned that, I was like, oh, sir, that's so boring. How can you run in the 400-meter track for, he said, 6 hours was not there. It was 12 hours. I said, no, it's so boring. I don't know. And I don't know why people do that also. I think when I look back, I think I was I took it very lightly and said it with quite a low tone. And he said, oh, you think it's very easy? I'll give you an entry. Just come run the event. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm getting a free entry. Why not? So I had, I think, 3 months to train. I had done 50K events by then. I was like, okay, let me just go try. So I've done 12 hours, 6 12-hour events till now in the stadium.
Wow. From being bored by after 2 rounds of it to...
Yeah. Because the first time when I did it, the debut, I had no clue how my body would respond. I had done 50K. I knew my body will survive till then. So I finished the 50K, and every half an hour I would just go sit with my husband who was supporting me.
50K on track would be like 120 laps?
So 25 laps of the track is 10 kilometers.
Okay.
So you do 100 is 40 kilometers. Yeah, round about 125. 125 is.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did the marathon. I was like, oh, my marathon on track. I did additional 8K. Okay, 50K is done. And then every kilometer or every lap after that is my personal best, right? I've not done any distance more than that. So I was patting my own back. I'm like, oh, okay, it's going good. I'm doing more and more. But after, I think, 7 hours, I was like, okay, why am I doing this? This is getting boring. But the whole environment of the stadium run is really rewarding because you have people coming in cheering for you, and because you're there, right there, you get to see others also running it. Unlike an event where, like a marathon, you start at a point and you finish somewhere. Even if it's a loop, you don't really get to see someone multiple times. Right. So there were people in Bangalore that I used to look up to in running at that point, and they were running. So for me, it was like, okay, they're running. How do they run? How's their stride? Or are they taking breaks? What are they eating? Kind of curiosity just drove me along. And somehow I managed to finish that and survive the 12 hours. So my husband was all along sitting by the track, the side
Poor
of the
guy.
track. But most of the whole running community in Bangalore that knows me knows my husband, because anywhere I go, he's there by my side. He's my biggest constant and my support. So I did that, and then it was like with this broad smile, I go to Adiga sir and I'm like, yeah, 12 hours, okay sir, done. The good thing was that it didn't break me. Probably also I didn't do a tremendous or an exceptional performance. It was just all right. I did, I think, 86 kilometers in my first 12 hours. I was happy about it. 50 is the maximum I had gone, and I've done 86. Okay, good. I'm like, yeah, maybe next time I should try and do 100. Just do a century. So at that point, it was just curious thinking what the body can do.
Right. Out of these 12-hour events that you have done, what was your best distance?
So I've been fortunate that I had all the support at home. I would go do my runs and come back, and breakfast would be ready at home. I love cooking, but then I'm not a morning person, so I would not be able to manage all of that. So my mom-in-law would take care of all of it, and then I could train. And 2020 February, there was a run at Chandigarh, 12 hours. So that was my 4th 12-hour run, and I managed to do 112 kilometers.
Wow.
Which fortunately still stands as the national best time.
Best distance for that time.
Yeah, best distance for that time, for 12 hours.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's tremendous. Yeah.
I can say 12 hours is my favorite only because I've done a couple of 24 hours. and it's a huge suffering.
Yeah.
So this feels like, okay, it's over much sooner.
So, yeah, I mean, like talking of 24 hours, you're just doubling the time you're spending on foot,
Yeah.
right? So how does it kind of compare in terms of suffering, and how do you manage that time?
This is a very personal opinion because there are a lot of people who believe in negative splits and trying to finish stronger than how you started and all of it. But for me, the first 12 hours is always my stronger run, and I always struggle in the next 12. Although I have only had one successful 24 till now, although I've attempted a couple more. So I think it's more to do with how you train your mind. After some point, I'm definitely not discrediting the fact that you need a lot of fitness as well. Physical factor also is there. Many people say running is just a mental sport, but I don't think there's any sport which is just mental or just physical. It involves 100% of both.
Right.
Only when you have that backing of the physical fitness, then can you have your mental training going, and that can support you.
Correct.
So for me, it's always how I can just tell myself that just do 5 more laps and then we'll see. I look up to Manoj Bhat, who's one of the legends of ultra running in Bangalore, and
Who we had done this
yeah,
podcast.
he was here on the podcast. So when I was doing my second 12-hour stadium run at Delhi, I think I've quoted him earlier also in one of the podcasts that I was on. Something that he told me has always stuck by me. So I was tired. It had been 8 hours. It was my second 12 hours. And he asked me, hey, how are you? And he was running happily 24 hours in his track. I'm looking at everyone. I'm like, they're doing 24. And girl, come on, you can do. You have all these self-talk going. And I said, I'm tired. I was just about to say, I'm feeling tired. My leg is... He was like, stop there. You know how animated Manoj can be, right?
Yeah.
So he immediately says, don't even get started on what's going on in your body, okay? You just tell yourself that after 12 hours, I'm going to come back to you. Because in ultra, it can change every moment. If you're feeling really good, it can change the next moment. And if you're feeling really low, it can change the next moment too. So he said, just don't think how you're feeling. Don't assess your body. Because usually I come from a background, I've done Hatha Yoga courses and like slow breathing. You hear, you have to ensure that your heartbeat doesn't go high and all of that. So initially in my running, I used to apply that to quite an extent. You're very mindful and quite precautious. So, and always checking in. Like I listen and I run a lot by feel. So for me, it was like everything that I believed running is about is being negated. I said, okay, but he is the legend. He's been running for so long and there should be something right that he's saying. So I told myself, okay, just listen to him. Don't do anything else. Just run. And that run, after that conversation, I managed to finish stronger than what I had perceived. And I think I covered 96 or 97 kilometers and finished second there.
Wow.
So
from being very, from struggling from 8 hours to
taking a lot of breaks, eating everything possible. We had it's very tempting when you run a stadium event because you have the 8 stations. Every single lap you're seeing them.
Right.
In marathons, you have them staggered at 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. Like in cycling, you would know.
Yeah.
8 stations are fixed. You go there, you fill up, you drink whatever, and you go on. But here, every lap, it's tempting you. You want water? You want to go to the loo? All this are coming up. And I was like, okay. And from then on, my ultra running game changed, I would say. So that has been like the biggest learning that I've had so far. Anytime I'm feeling like, oh, I can't take another step, I remind myself that because you've done things which are much harder, things where you were much more weaker, that you felt that you were weaker, but you've got through them.
Gotten through them.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And so the uh, best, the 24-hour, the successful 24-hour run you were done. What was the distance and what was that experience like?
That experience was, I mean, I would say I was on cloud nine because I had my husband. Till then, all my 12 hours runs, except for one where I had gone to Chandigarh and did it on my own, he has always supported me. So, in support, when I say people who don't know, you're by the side of the track, passing water, passing ORS, whatever that the runner needs to ensure that you're reducing the time
Stop
that they
time.
take off the track.
Right.
So, also, we don't have to run continuously for 12 hours or 24 hours. There's no mandate. So, that 24 hours, the race director of Malnad Ultra, Anand Koli, he's a good friend of mine and he graciously offered to be my crew. So he said, "Hey, if Sunny is doing so, he's met my husband as well. He said he can manage for 12 hours. I mean, possibly, humanly, it's not possible for anyone to think and make the right decisions for more than 12 hours, and that too when you're not really doing anything that you consider as productive." Right? I'm the one running, or we are the runners running, but
Right.
you're just by the side, and maybe once in half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm just going to shout out and say, "I want ORS, I want water." And they have to be alert.
Yeah.
So, and I had a couple more friends who joined in and said, "We'll just do shifts, 3 hours or 4 hours, each of us will come in and we'll support you." So for me, it was like a celebration. Although it was my debut, um, it went all right. I did 181 kilometers in that event, and 175 kilometers was the criteria for you to get into the Indian ultra team
Wow.
for women. And I had managed 181 kilometers. So this was in 2021. So for me, more than the distance or that it was my debut, so I work with this company called Invictus Performance Lab, where I go strength train. I have my nutrition coach and also my sports psychologist. They had all come down. So for me, I was feeling so much of gratitude for all the support I got. It's just one person running, but it was like a whole village is behind you and they want you to do well. So
Right.
it was an amazing
No,
experience.
I think the ultras, most people don't realize, be it ultra running or be it ultra endurance cycling, it is very much a team sport. It is very much a team sport. The athlete is a very big, important part of that team, but crew plays such a crucial
I
role.
think if I have to tell it in cycling terms, they are the wheels.
Yeah.
We might be the pedal, you like power, how much, and all of it we decide as an athlete. But without the wheels, you can't move.
Right. So that is very important to have that crew by your side that keeps you in check, because in ultra distances you would know that what all can go wrong in your mind and the body, right? So there has to be someone who understands you, who kind of can make decisions for you as well when you are not thinking straight. So all that would come in, really important aspect, right?
I follow the Tour de France as well, and I know how much what kind of impact it has on the body with multi-day stage races like that. So the crew, if they know you really well, they can be the game changers.
Right.
There have been times even during my stadium runs, that's where you really need the crew, because otherwise you're just on your own, you're running. There have been times when I've said, "I think I need a break, I'm feeling tired," or something. And then my husband or anybody who's screwing me, my friends, they would just tell me, "Just go for one lap of walk. Don't have to run. Just walk for one lap." And I go for a lap of run, and then I'm feeling better because I see somebody, I high five or something. I'm a very, very vocal runner. I like to, when I'm chasing a target or I want to do well, I'm not really the type where I'm laser focused or anything. I say hi to somebody, cheer somebody, and things like that. So just that walk would cheer me up because somebody would say, "Hey, Ashwini, all okay? You're doing well. You're looking so strong." And just that positivity would make me feel that person thinks I'm strong. So probably I still have that strength, and that would continue. So I would say without doubt, it is a team sport.
Yeah.
And you are blessed if you have friends that you can create around you and surround yourself with them. Also makes it more accountable. You are much more disciplined. Like if I promise you that tomorrow morning I'm going to turn up at 5:30 for a run at Kantiroa, if it was just me, I'd be like, I would snooze and I'm like, okay, let me go at 5:45 or 6 o'clock. But then I know you're waiting for me.
Right.
So it really creates that whole scenario of being committed.
Yeah. Excellent. So then you talking about from going from stadiums to let us go a little higher in altitude. Right. So you recently have done what I consider a crazy
I still
crazy
consider
event.
it like that because it is crazy.
You did what? You hiked for 3.5 days to get to a start of an event and did an ultra, something like that?
No, 15 days. So it's the Everest Extreme Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a run which happens from Everest Base Camp. So traditionally people, when they do the Everest Base Camp trek, they do it for 10 to 12 days. But then I wanted more acclimatization days and all of that. So I did it on my own, unsupported, carrying my bag because, me, I'm a loner. So I wanted time to just, if I like a view, I don't really like somebody telling me that, hey, it's time you need to go.
Yeah.
I want to sit there, just enjoy it and sit there till my heart is full.
Hey, so tell me, where did you start, from when, and how did it go? 15 days of trekking in that,
Yeah.
what I feel is heaven. Tell me more about that.
My stint with high altitude running comes from Ladakh. So in 2018 is when I did a full marathon at Ladakh.
Wow.
So at Leh City, it happens at Leh itself.
Okay.
So Leh City is 11,000 something feet.
In terms of meters, some 4,000 something.
3,900
Right,
meters.
close to.
And since we had done biking there, and after that, I think 1.5 years after, we tried doing the Chadar trek, the infamous Chadar trek, but then we were unlucky and didn't happen. And I had volunteered for an event which happens
What happened to Chadar?
Yeah, so we got there, and the day we land there are flyers everywhere in the city saying that Chadar trek is cancelled because some tree had fallen on the chadar. So chadar is actually chadar, that's what they say. Chadar is blanket. It's sheets of snow which the river gets frozen and it's sheets, and villages actually use it for commute. And as
crossing the river.
Yeah. So there is a village called Nirak, which is the last village, and people from Nirak come to civilization for school or whatever. They have to walk on the chadar.
Okay.
On the chadar. So we got there, and then some tree had fallen, and it's ice, right? So tree had fallen, and it had created a dam kind of a situation.
Okay.
Water had already built up. They didn't know how much water had built up there, and if it broke, whoever was on the chadar, you're just on the sheets of ice, it would be devastating. So whoever was on the trek were evacuated, and they bombed it, broke the water which had got stagnant, and then I think after a week they opened it back. Okay. So I had experience going to Ladakh multiple times. I had volunteered for an event which happens from Manali to Leh. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. I also still consider it the most insane thing that you can do. 5 days, 480 kilometers is the distance that people run. Okay, so
My God.
I don't have the heart of even thinking about it, although the race director is a good friend of mine. It's called Hell Race for good reasons.
Yeah.
Because it is hell. It's through 5 passes. I think you've cycled there, or
No,
you have heard
that's
of the.
I heard of people. I have had friends cycle there.
Yeah.
But that is been on my bucket list for my 40th birthday. Now I have crossed 45th birthday, but I haven't done it yet, so I don't know when.
I think Manali Leh Highway is waiting for the celebrity to get there and do it. So I had volunteered for that event. And,
the Hell Race.
Yeah. So every day they run whatever distance they can, but you need to cover it in 5 days.
Okay.
There have been multiple winners covering that 480 kilometers also. 2 Indians who finished it as well. So I was very fascinated by it and I had volunteered. So I'm blessed with being with good genes because my body acclimatizes pretty well. So I had seen that I don't have any of the AMS issues that most people face when they reach place of altitude.
Right.
So after these 3, I was confident that I can go try the marathon. So I had done that in 2018 and 2019. Due to some challenges that I faced with my stadium run target that I had, which I DNF'd. I had to quit that in 7 hours. And I had so much of fitness that I had built up. I had done a lot of training as well. So I wanted to challenge myself. And a friend suggested, you have the fitness. I think it was in August. I had 3 weeks to go for the Ladakh marathon to happen. And the year that I had been there, marathon, I heard that there is Khardungla Challenge, which is a 72-kilometer run, which happens. So there is a village called Khardung, where the race starts at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you climb up to Khardungla Pass, which is not anymore, but it was the highest motorable road in the world at that time. And then climb down to Leh City. So it's 32 kilometers of complete uphill climbing and 40 kilometers of 70% of downhill and some flats. So that had fascinated me and I thought, okay, why not? Let me try. And because I was so upset that I DNF'd the stadium run for which I had trained so much, my friend encouraged me and I attempted to do both of them back to back.
As in Leh Ultra?
So the Khardungla Challenge 72, which happens on a Thursday, on a Friday, and the Sunday marathon 42 kilometers.
Oh, so the longer one is first.
First.
Okay.
So you finish Khardungla Challenge and I had heard that there were a couple of people who had done it back to back a few years. And for me, when I'm very self-critical, when I know I have put in the training and I should have performed well, it's not about just meeting the target. It's about the time and effort that I had spent. And I wanted that to be in some way utilized.
Right.
So I went and did that and things went well. My body got used to it and fortunately, I had good finishes in both of them and finished on the podium in both. So I knew altitude was not a problem.
So, congratulations on the podium finishes. But I'm just curious what happened on that stadium run that kind of, left all your fitness unutilized.
So that was the year that Peter Van Gate, who's the founder of Chennai Trekking Club, 2019. So February, there is a run which happens at Auroville called the Auroville Marathon, which is organized by the community of Auroville. It's a non-profit run.
Right.
And in 2018, I had done the half marathon. That's when I saw Peter run from Chennai to Pondicherry and then do the marathon. So approximately 200 kilometers in about 48 hours.
Okay.
So they had come
100 a
and
day.
we all clicked
Yeah.
pictures with them, and I was very inspired. So he is the person who inspired me to get into endurance, like hands down, everything that he was doing was very fascinating for me, and pushing the limits and showing us Indians who always thought that this is all we can do, that you can still do more. He's from Belgium, but speaks Tamil because he had stayed at Chennai for so long. So that year, 2019, he called me up and said, we're doing a run from Chennai to Pondicherry as usual and do the marathon. Would you be interested? So I had never done a city run till then, and nothing self-supported. And this is a run where you don't have anybody else carrying your luggage. You carry what you want. You sleep by the roadside, wherever, and then just get there. So I said, I don't know if I can keep up with you. It's like, no, it's okay, we'll see. You'll have maps. So they gave us maps, which we had to download and have it with you because you have to be independent.
Right.
So I had done that run, and we were, I think, 6 of us who started, and 5 cyclists. But the trail that they had taken the previous year, the map which we followed, it's only trails, It's not the...
Oh, okay. Not the main roads or anything. Yeah.
What's it called? The Chennai to Pondicherry, the highway.
I don't know.
It's called something.
I'm really bad with directions and routes.
The East Coast Road.
Okay.
ECR.
Easier. Yeah.
So Peter doesn't like roads at all.
Yeah.
He's like, tarmacs.
Obviously.
Why would I do that? I
Yeah.
want to go on the trails. So everything was through villages, just getting water from villages and things like that. And they're like, they used to call him as the white man in Tamil. Why is he running like that? Crazy and things like that. So people started dropping out. We started at 4 o'clock in the evening from Chennai, the outskirts. I think we did 50K on the first day. 12:30 we slept outside a village temple. Like we had to carry our mat. I didn't have change of clothes or anything because you have to carry its weight, right?
Yeah.
So just little bit of food that you needed. Otherwise everything was just on the way.
The go.
Dosas, whatever we could find, just eat. Morning we woke up, no brushing teeth and all. I didn't have a brush also.
Yeah.
So I was about to go wash my face. There was a tap. And Peter's like, Ashwini, what are you doing? We have to go. So another girl, so 3 of us had remained by then after the 50K. And it was hot. It was in February.
Yeah.
That's the most humid weather that I have ever witnessed. And we reached by, I think, 12 o'clock midnight on Saturday. And Sunday morning, 5:30 is the marathon.
Wow.
I'm dead tired, So 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Peter reaches somewhere. He's like further up, like 20 kilometers ahead of me. And he calls me up. I'm the only one left. Everyone has given up. They've taken buses to reach Pondicherry or back to Chennai, whichever way. Cyclists had a lot of punctures. I think they had 7 or 8 additional tubes and punctures. Everything is used up because you're going on trails.
Right.
And Peter is very insistent that this is a beautiful trail and we need to go there. And the route that they had taken previous year, there was so much of growth. And we got lost in one big lake and somehow found a way and all that. And 3 o'clock he called me and he's like, I'm going to sleep here and I'll be here till 5:30. You think you can make it here? I'm the only one left. I had got lost somewhere and I'm like, okay, I'm just going by. I'm pretty good at navigation. So I was like, okay, I'm going to somehow reach. I said, I want to reach there and then take a call. I think I took some 2 hours, 20 minutes to get there. And I had 10 minutes for the deadline. I know, as much as I respect him, I have a lot of fear about, like, I'm scared because I look up to him so much. He was just lying down and he gets up and like, okay, 10 minutes. What do you think? And we have 45 kilometers to go to reach Pondicherry, Auroville.
Okay.
Still, it was hot, humid, I'm tired, sweaty, and chafing everywhere and all of it. Then I asked myself, would you get a chance to do this again? which was probably no, because knowing my husband and I knew how much chaffing I had, like my thighs, everywhere it was burning,
Right.
because of the humidity and the sweat.
Yeah.
Probably I would not get a go ahead for the next opportunity. So I told him, I'll be slow, but I want to do the 45. So he said, okay, we have two choices. Either we take the road. I know you're tired. This is your first time. He'd done it multiple times by then. He had done runs in Himalayas, like self-supported runs and all that. So he was considerate and he said, we could take the road. I was like, really? Peter, you saying road? And he's like, no, just for you, it would be 42 kilometers. We would reduce 3 kilometers. But then, we'll not have the beautiful sights. And he's just trying to still make me agree to the trails, but just showing that I still care for you. So I said, no, let's take the trails.
Okay.
He's so happy and he has this broad smile. He says, that's my girl, let's go. And we had one cyclist, Shankar, who was the only lone man standing. And he said, okay, I'm going to manage. I'll come.
What's his full name?
Shankar Narayanan.
Okay.
So they are the couple, Vanati and Shankar.
Okay.
Very, very sweet people. So he was supporting us because we were tired by then. So he would go and at least in some village, he would say, we want some food or something, and he would order a dosa. That's where we got some help and we managed to finish. We got there. I'm like so tired. I don't even want to think about running a marathon next morning. I'm in that state. And he says, get a couple of hours sleep and we'll see in the morning. I'm like, yeah, we will see. By then they had ordered pizza. The whole of Chennai Trekking Club is there.
Okay.
So they came and picked us up. Like we were 3 kilometers, I think 4 kilometers away. We waited, they picked us up and we had pizza waiting. And all day, I think I had one dosa or two dosas. And like villages, 8:30 in the night. There's nothing available. Whatever was there, we just ate.
They shut about 7.
Yeah, they're not bothered that you are running. Who are you to be running? Like, that's true, right? They have their own life. So I was starving. Somehow managed to eat pizza. I'm not a pizza person. I don't eat cheese. But that night I was like, okay, chuck it. I'm so hungry. I'm just going to eat. We ate. I freshened up. Because I was so tired, but I didn't have a change of clothes. I wore the same thing, slept, and 3:30 the alarm goes. We are sleeping in a community hall. There was a school in Auroville which CTC had spoken to, and because CTC goes really budget style, like don't spend any money. Why would you spend when you can actually? So we did that, and then I was not able to move my legs. I'm like, I don't think I can do the marathon. I'm just sitting up like this. And Peter comes and says, I know you're tired, but you can do it. I have the confidence you can do it. So your idol believes that you can do it. That told me, just get to the start line, we'll see. And I had a friend who had got a change of clothes for me in his car. So I reached Chennai, right? So I had one small bag with him. So I got there, I changed into my proper running clothes. And we started the marathon. And Peter happily finished, I think, in about 5 hours. And he waited for me. That was the slowest marathon that I have run in my life.
Obviously.
So tired. And everyone's passing me, but the spirit was still there. But I didn't have the energy to even say anything. So I would just show a thumbs up to anyone who's passing. And most of the CTC guys were like, all okay? Yeah, I'll come. You just go. So he waited for me at the finish line and we finished it. So 197 kilometers in 47 hours, we covered that.
Wow.
So this was the background to that. So July, fast forward the same year, 2019, he called me and he said, I'm going to the Himalayas. So every year he does 3 months in the Himalayas and then comes back to the city, replans and then goes. And he does a lot of mountain passes, not the hikes, not the taken routes. He actually sits and does the mapping, finds routes and does it. So previous year he had done 100 passes in 100 days.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I have to do the stadium run. By then I had got to know that, you always have a dream when you're growing up wearing the Indian tricolor sometime,
Right.
like as an aspiring sports person. So that was taken away from me at a very young age. I knew I was not a prodigy. I didn't have any talent as such. I used to just play all kind of sport, and I heard that if you can do 100 kilometers in 12 hours, you can get into the Indian Ultra team. So I was like, yeah, I really need to put in the training, really be very focused. And when Peter called me, that looked like a sign to me. Your idol is actually inviting you to come trek with him, and it's at high altitude. And we all know you train at high altitude, you have the higher number of RBCs, you come back down, and it makes it much more easier. And I had seen that effect when I was in Ladakh. I would do the runs, come back to the city, and a week after the Khardungla Challenge and the Ladakh Marathon, I did a half marathon here, which I won.
Wow.
That was 1 week after the event. You know, my breathing was so effortless, my legs were not able to support my pace. So that's the effect of altitude.
Right.
So I said, there's not going to be another opportunity like this. You get to trek with him, train for your event, and probably get a chance to be on the Indian team. So I said, yeah, I'll come. And I headed up. He had already done 1 month of hiking. So we did some hiking, and it was not for me. I realized I am not made for that kind of power hiking. He is really fast, you know,
Right.
1,000 meters of elevation gain in 4 hours
Yeah.
kind of pace,
Wow.
which I was not made for. And that was my first time doing a self-supported hike. Like you had to carry your luggage, and then he made us do the same thing.
Yeah, but doing hiking at that altitude is one thing, right?
Yeah.
In itself, it is a hard thing. And it's power hiking in the sense you are practically more or less running up those hills.
Yes.
At pace, and that is going to be a lot more challenging, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So you quickly found out that
I think I overestimated my ability at that time, and I told myself, yeah, I can probably try.
no. See, when you were doing that Chennai to Pondicherry, you were still a few hours behind him, but that was on the flats.
Yeah.
When you know, mind you, Peter is an experienced, high altitude,
Yeah.
mountain pass trekker, runner,
Alpine style. Yeah,
alpine style
yeah.
runner, right? So there would be the gap would be considerably more.
I think it's also my strength because I always, I'm very ambitious. If somebody says that, can you do this? I'm like, I want to try and see. I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
So that's always been my attitude. So even there, the saving grace was there were 2 other guys from CTC itself who were also hiking with Peter. So I knew even if I fall behind, we had maps again. You know, he would not wait for you. He would go, he would sit up, he would write his blog. We would take an hour again to get there. And we reached there, you're so tired, you want to sit down? He's like, all good? Let's go. I'm like, oh, I want to sit down. You know, this happens with hikers.
Yeah.
The slowest of the gang never gets the rest.
Yes.
You're climbing up, everyone's clicking pictures, all this happen. Anywhere you go.
Same with cycling.
Yeah. You reach there and you're like, okay, I just want a breather, and everyone's like, oh, let's go. So that happened, and then we did one pass. Baleni Pass, which is near Kareri in Dharamshala region. And we reached the pass, which was the second day of my hike. And we have reached 4,800 meters. I was not acclimatized. I had taken an overnight flight, slept at the airport, taken an overnight bus from Delhi, and reached in the morning. And I have reached, the first day we have reached 3,700 meters. So it was too much on my body, and he could see that I was struggling. And I made it very clear. It's been a trait of mine that I'm quite on the face and I don't hide my feelings or emotions. And I told Peter, no, not happening. So there was another pass that we had to go up into. We reached around, I think, 2 o'clock and started snowing. And Peter's like, he shows us, you see that pass there? That's where we're going. It's higher up and there's snow. And we didn't have any kind of micro spikes or crampons. And Peter is like a goat. Like even however steep it is, he just climbs like, oh, it's nothing. And we are struggling for even one half step. So that's where I took a decision and I told him that, Peter, I'm going down. So this is a point where you can go down towards Chamba, or you climb up and then do again the whole region. Thankfully, the boys were also exhausted like me, and they said they're going to join me. So we left Peter alone. Rather, we left ourselves alone. We can't really leave Peter. He went ahead with his plan and we got down towards Chamba and then did a couple of more hikes on our own. We had maps we knew. So Jalsu Pass is one which we did, and then we did Hanumangarh and Rajgunda in Beed. And
at your own pace, it's much more easier.
Yeah. So we three had a good similar paces. So we stayed, which was still faster than normal people hiking, because 3 days we were doing it in 1.5 days kind of thing. But you can never really go close to the god of alpine. So I had done that much of training and still I had 1 week left. So I said bye to the boys and then I headed up towards Keelung. That's where I did 1 week of my training and stayed with that family. So that is how much effort I had put in to train for the stadium run. And the previous night of the stadium run, I had a nightmare. My dad, although he has been very supportive of my childhood dreams of sports and everything, he still was not very happy about me getting into running. We didn't go the family way when everyone expected us to. We've been married for 10 years now. So that was a point when there was a clash that, why are you doing running? It's so exhausting on the body and you should just be planning your family, having a baby, settling down, and you're doing some outlandish things and all of that. So something happened, and in my nightmare I had my dad telling me that whatever you do, all this is not worth it, and some things like that. So it had impacted me quite a lot. I got to the start line. It was a night run. So we started at 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, 12 hours.
12 hours.
I started off, I had to do 100 kilometers in 12 hours.
That's so if you... To qualify for
Yeah, I had to just cross 100. That's it. So if you do the math, you do 8.5 kilometers-ish approximately per hour to get to 100.
Right.
Which is not a lot. So which is about 715 to 720 per kilometer pace, which is still a reasonable thing to do. I went well till 5 hours, and then that same thing kept revolving in my head. It was in my nightmare. It was not an actual thing.
Correct.
But I think it was also something to do with probably some guilt I was carrying of maybe am I being a good daughter-in-law, or what my in-laws think of me, although they're being supportive. So all that was running in my head and my mindset was just way off. So 5 hours I did the run. I'd covered good mileage. I was well ahead of my target, what I had to do. But then the breakdown started. After that, every half an hour, there were tears in my eyes. I was getting off the track. I was going to my husband and telling him, somehow I don't feel like running. It just felt like, why do you have to run when probably, this was my own assumption, you know?
Yeah.
This is not anything that somebody has told me like specifically, but I'm just thinking in my own head, and you're having these self-doubts. And running became a question mark to me. Why should I run? What do you get out of it? Why are you putting yourself through all this suffering? See, these are the self-doubts that usually you have, but you get over them.
Right.
Because you've trained your mind like, yeah, this is what you have to expect it to be hard. You can't, if it was a piece of cake, you would see every single person running on the road, right?
Exactly.
You don't.
Yeah.
So 7 hours somehow I managed. I had covered 65-ish kilometers in 7 hours, which is a very good thing.
Well on target.
My body was in top form. I could tell that. But mind was just nowhere in sight. And 1:30 in the night, I covered 70 kilometers. I'm crying profusely. I went, hugged my husband, and I told him, please take me from here. I don't want to run. That was my first DNF. He tried to console me. He convinced me multiple times to go back on the track, just walk, multiple things, go eat something. So by then I had fine-tuned my nutrition as well, and I was not eating everything that was available, which was the case earlier. You know, there was samosa, there was jamun. I had gone and eaten that, all that. So we just went home. 2 o'clock, I've reached home in the night, and 2 days I had a mental breakdown. Like, you know, we create this identity for ourselves that you are a runner.
Right.
Whether it's actually true, whether somebody considers you that way or not is a different question. But I had considered myself as a runner, and I was aspiring to be on the ultra team.
Right.
And it just felt like my dream had come down crumbling.
No, that's really hard, right?
Yeah.
It is nothing that anyone has told you.
Yes.
It's nothing that anyone has, it's not like someone has criticized you or something, but something it has kickstarted the dream or nightmare.
So it was these small things that my dad would not be happy,
Right.
even if I do a run or something.
Right.
He would not talk much, kind of a thing. I
Right.
could sense it,
Right.
but it was not really verbally told.
Yeah, something that kind of built up over the period of time, right? And that is like topping on topping and topping, and
it became a concrete thing in my own head.
Right.
So, many times all these manifestations of our own feelings is a lot to do just in your head. So now that I have the privilege of working with a sports psychologist from 2020 September, I've been working with this company called Behavioral Foresight. I know many times we assume, we think that somebody would probably think this way.
Right.
Which might not be the case at all. If you actually speak to that person, they'll be like, really? I never thought that way. So that happened. So that was the precursor to me going and doing that back-to-back Khardungla. And see, many times, people ask me and they assume, I have never really shared this with anybody. But I think the environment here and your persona is so good that I felt like opening up. So they think it's a lot of talent, it's discipline, hard work and all of it. But sometimes it might be reasons unknown why somebody pursues something.
Right.
We really don't know why somebody is doing something. We might think it's for fame, they might get pride, it's about podiums, it's about timings. But deep down, it might be very simple reason.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. And what is that for you?
I think for me, it has evolved with time. Initially, it was the satisfaction that I used to get knowing that my body is capable of doing this. And through the years, I wouldn't say I'm mature enough now, but I'm getting there. So it's more about, now there are so many of my friends who have children, 2 children, so 2 or 3 of them, who call me up and tell me that I'm an inspiration and I'm living the life that they only can dream of. I'm just following my passion, doing what I think I want to do, and with the family support. Many of my friends, they wanted to do something else, professionally, but due to many reasons, it can be the EMI that they still have to continue to pay, that they can't get out of their job. I've had friends who had to go back to work after 3 months of having delivered a baby because they can't afford to miss it. So my heart goes out to all of them each time, even when I went to Everest and when I did this run, I had so many people wishing me and telling me that I really hope you do well. So each time, I think now it's come to a point where it's what impact it can make. It's not just me doing something. But somebody, if they feel that this person is really doing something in life, and I wish I could do that, but I can't. It can be physical reasons, it can be injuries, issues that you have, it can be family support that you don't get. I've had, back in school, I had a fierce competitor called Radhika. So 3 years of my high school, I was a sports captain for 2 years, and she was a sports captain for 1 year. All sports we played together, and it would always be cat and mouse. First she would finish, or second me, and then vice versa. And our physical education master, he always used to say, Radhika is going to do something in life in sports, because she was really good and she was much more talented than me. But now she's married, she has 2 children, and she has got obese because she doesn't have the time to go out and do it. She had some issues with her pregnancy. So she called me up after this Everest run when it came out in the newspaper, and she said, I'm so proud that you're doing what I couldn't do. So it might look like a selfish thing when you leave your in-laws, my husband, for 4 weeks and you go and do it. But I think it's gone beyond doing it for yourself now. So I feel very privileged to have this opportunity of being able to do it for somebody else.
True.
So when I was tired, my mom is not keeping well from some time. She's been ailing with a terminal issue. So we found out about in late December, and I've been struggling to manage my discipline with running. I've not been able to do it because it's life-threatening, and what's the purpose of just following my passion? But she's so proud of what I'm doing, and she always keeps telling me that she's a homemaker. Although she wanted to do something independently and probably contribute to the family, she couldn't do it, considering the stigma in the society, and also how my dad was like, you don't have to work, I'll manage. So she feels very happy that I'm somewhere filling her small unfulfilled dream of being able to do something.
Right. Amazing. Also, people, when people say, I'm so inspired by you, by what you are doing and all that, and think that we have it all figured out.
No, it's
That
not.
is something that that keeps saying, no, we are just trying to
We're
figure
just
out.
as everything misplaced as you.
Exactly.
When just because there are a certain accomplishments to your name doesn't make us big. Today, today morning I had gone and met a few friends at Cubbon Park after Everest. That was the first meeting, and someone said, "Hey, you're a celebrity now." Like, let's not give titles or take away just because somebody has done something and put down somebody else's effort.
Right.
Even if you get up and go for a walk every day because you consider it important for your health, you're still really a big star in my eyes. So just because I've done Everest doesn't make me anything. People have achieved such huge things in life. Summiting Everest, doing leave alone sport.
Right.
Like even life's challenges with whatever is thrown, some people have shined through. So when you look at it from that perspective, we're just minuscule. All this is not really big at all. So it just, I think I feel very, very privileged that I have the support. That's the biggest thing for me. The family, my friends, everyone who sees whatever I do as their own achievement, as their own accomplishment. That's the biggest thing for me. So I have had days when I've gone through depression for a long time. Depression is not what usually people probably have the stigma of thinking, needing medical help. I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to stay lying down. I don't want to interact with anybody. Just want to lie down. I would wake up, eat something, my most supportive husband would always be like, how do you feel today? Do you want to do something? I'm like, no, I don't want to do anything. I just want to maybe read something. I want to be in the room. So I've gone through that phases for multiple reasons, like some family things that I would not like to
Yeah.
discuss here, but
Yeah.
then everyone goes through it.
Absolutely.
So, recently when my mom's diagnosis came in and I was at my lowest, seeing your own parent go through it and knowing that you can't do anything, that's the most helpless situation that anybody can be. So I had stopped running. I had not run for like 3 weeks. And then somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we've not seen anything from you. Is everything okay? Are you not running? Like, I'm not on Strava. Because somehow I felt that it had become another social media where you had to respond to people. They would comment on your activity and then you're expected to reply. And I have always been very privy about my running, or it's not that I don't want to share, but then it was like, I'm a runner and I run. What's
Yeah.
there to post about it every day? Like how much I did, what was the heart rate? It never really occurred to me of the power it holds. Until I worked with a brand for about a year, and that's when I knew that maybe your small act might inspire somebody to lace up and just do something. So it's about how you use it. And that's when I did a post when that 3 weeks I had not done any running and I was really low. I really came out and expressed in public on my Instagram handle saying that I don't have it figured out. I feel things are not okay. Most people thought that it was about running
Yeah.
because that's become your identity. But it was not at all about running.
There is so much to life beyond running, right? Mom is not well, and you are trying to, come to terms with that,
Yeah.
and all that. That is, there are so many things to life beyond
Just
what we do,
because
right?
you have done certain things, you've done well,
Mm.
and people look at you as an athlete now.
Mm.
Although even now I don't
Look at you as an athlete, not just as an athlete, but an athlete that has everything figured out.
Yeah, they
Right?
think that you're very disciplined.
Yeah.
Every day you run, every day you eat really good food, and like they think it's the ideal situation that you can be always in. And I've always felt everyone wants to paint the good picture. I wouldn't want to share if something is wrong with the world unless it is something that I feel somebody can connect with. But a happy statistic, an activity that I did and I excelled at, I'm happy to share. So 50% of the times maybe it's happy, 50 nobody looks sad.
Right.
And they think everything is going well. And people have walked up to me and said, oh, your husband works and you are doing all this running. What a life, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm very self-sufficient. Once I started that coaching thing, I fine-tuned and all of it, and I do virtual coaching now, but for a very small handful of people, because I believe a lot in that one-to-one time that you can give. So I don't take more than 10 people a month, ever. So currently about 7 people is what I'm training, so that I can have enough time for my own training and for my family.
Right.
Because the whole purpose why I quit my job was because I wanted to have that family time. So it's this assumption that just because somebody is doing a lot of running, doing a lot of solo traveling, anytime you want to go, you're just happy, pick up your bag and you just walk out.
Yeah.
It's probably not as simple as it looks.
Yeah, true. I very much connect with what you were saying, because that is something that I've experienced, I've gone through. Last year has been very challenging, on the personal family front, with similar critical illnesses in the family and stuff. And you go through those phases, and you have to hold forth. You would think because you become a strength for people around you.
Yep.
you are expected to be strong, but you want to have a shoulder to cry, right?
I know what you say. Yeah, yeah.
And it is not a very great position to be in. Everyone thinks that you have everything figured out, but you are still that person who is trying to make things work.
Yeah.
When everything around you is falling apart, you are trying to see what is the best way you can keep everything holding together.
Yeah. Also, I think it's about prioritizing and knowing what is important at what phase.
Right.
I have seen runners, like really strong runners, they take a break for whatever reason. It can be an injury, it can be family issues, or not having enough time with the work-life balance and all of that. And they feel really guilty that they took that choice. But when we make a choice, there definitely will be consequences. So, what I have learned in my own trying to deal with my own depression and all the struggles is when I know I have to make this decision, I'll think, what happens if I make this decision? What are the things that come with it? What happens if I don't? And I should be happy with what comes with it. I can't make a decision and then think, oh, it's still like this. Why is it not? And, we're all amateur runners. I still consider myself a very amateur runner because there are people who've achieved a lot in the sport and done much more than what we think we have probably achieved.
Absolutely.
So, being amateur runners where, my livelihood doesn't depend on me performing well in a race. It gives me happiness, it makes me feel accomplished, it gives me pride to my family, my friends, and all of it. But at the end of the day, does it make me happy?
Yeah.
So, if that is not the case, and when you ask yourself, I have to put in 80 kilometers mileage a week, my expectation with work has gone up, my boss is really cranky and all of it, but still because I have a race, I have to make ends meet, that doesn't work. I have seen things fall apart and cause issues with injuries, stress to just blowing apart levels and all of it. I don't think that's healthy as well. Because, I always go back to asking myself, why did I get into running? I didn't choose running because it was going to get me glory. I didn't know, I had no clue that I would do well also.
Right.
It gave me happiness, it made me feel strong. So I just got into it and I started. And things have happened and it's got me somewhere.
Right.
But that doesn't make me anyway eligible to take away the joy from it.
Right. That is true. Now, we have gone...
So serious, my God.
No, exactly. But, and those are very important things to talk about as well, right? But let us go back to high altitude. Right? From this heaviness.
I should be giving some sound effects like that's how I was pretty much when I ran,
Right. So, those 15 days of trekking to the start point, where did you start, how did it go, and then let us take it from there.
Okay, you have to stop me because I can just continue on with this story. So Lukla is the airport that you reach from Kathmandu. Take a 20-seater flight, you reach Lukla. Unless you want to do the classic route which was taken by Tenzing Hillary and Norgay.
To the base camp.
To reach Everest, that is much longer route which is on road.
Okay.
So you don't have to take a flight for that. But 95% of the people take a flight, get to Lukla, and then your hike starts from there.
Okay.
So Lukla is at 3,200 meters, and 10th of May is when I started my adventure. Considering all of it, it was 10 days before that I booked everything because my mom's thing was going on and I didn't know. I even contemplated whether should I go at all.
Yeah.
Because she was going to get operated and all of this. But then she told me that, no, I want you to go. Don't pause your life for this. I'm
Yeah.
going to be strong. You remain strong. And we will send strength to each other. And I wish you go and do well. So I just had that all along. And I told myself, I'm going to go back and I'm going to see mom healthy and smiling. So Lukla, I got there on 12th of May is when I started the hike. From there, you get to Namche Bazaar. Namche Bazaar is like the biggest town there on the route. So from Lukla onwards, everything is on foot. There's no road. So anything that comes to the trek is flown in and people carry it on their back or on yak. So pretty much people, the nature of the people and how much they can withstand has been tested over time because of the difficulties they have.
Right.
It's a business, yeah, because there's a lot of money involved and a lot of Westerners come there, and it's Everest. So
Yeah.
it's the pinnacle of, that's the roof of the world. So
Right.
people want to do it. But I got there 12th of May. I started the hike, and second day I got to Namche Bazaar. Usually people take a little longer, but then because I have very good genes from my parents and ancestors, I managed to reach there in a little faster time and got to Namche Bazaar, acclimatized there for a day, and then started the hike. So usually there are 3 routes that you can get to Everest Base Camp itself. So from Lukla to Namche Bazaar is 25-ish kilometers. And then on, depending on which route you take, the distance varies. The traditional route is, I think, 75 kilometers with acclimatization days and some walks and all that. Otherwise, it's 40 kilometers by road.
Okay.
You don't go around, you just go straight to Everest Base Camp. That's what it is. So I chose the second route, which is Gokyo Lakes. I think it's about 100 kilometers-ish. And I did about 5 days of acclimatization at Gokyo itself, which is at 4,800 meters. I really like the place. It has 5 lakes in close proximity, and I could do a lot of power hikes. I tried running. I think after half a kilometer, I was gasping for so much air. I had to put my hands on my knees. I'm like a dog. My tongue is out and I'm breathing so profusely. So it's quite hard on the body.
The air is so thin.
Yeah. So unless and until you've been there for quite long and your body has got really used to it,
Yeah.
which is the case with mountain people,
Right.
like Nepalis and all,
Yeah.
which I'll come to with the timing and everything. So I stayed there for 5 days. So it took me 15 days to get to Everest Base Camp. So 12th is when I started, and 27th is when I reached Gorakshep, which is the place just before Everest Base Camp. So the deal is why the Everest Marathon is so hyped and so many Westerners do it, although the price is like exquisite. $1,000 for, like, you're paying 78,000 for the registration, not the hike. It's just the
Right.
registration. Is because you get to stay at Everest Base Camp for 2 nights.
Okay.
So anyone who does the Everest Base Camp trek itself, they're not allowed to stay at Everest Base Camp. So Gorakshep is a place where you can stay. There are some hotels there, and then you do a day hike to Everest Base Camp and come back.
Okay.
So there's a stone, I am sure many people have seen it, which has the spray paint of Everest Base Camp written on it. People go there, they take a picture and come back. So we had 2 nights at Everest Base Camp, 27th and 28th. And 29th of May, which is Everest Day, is when the marathon happens. So it's been happening since 2003, so 19 years now,
Wow.
except for the pandemic 2 years. So yeah, it was a fair and quite suffering, huge suffering, but then an experience for a lifetime.
So what are it took you, like, you spent 15 days hiking there.
Yeah.
What are some of the memorable events during that time?
So the thing is, usually people hire a guide and a porter.
Mm.
So a porter carries your bag, and you just carry whatever you need just for the hike. Maybe water and some, maybe a jacket additionally if the
Yeah.
weather gets bad. Other than that, there's a guide who will be able to tell you, oh, there's a mountain. That is what it is. But for a couple of reasons, one financial, and also the other was the pace factor, and also that I love spending time on my own in the mountains. I am very talkative, but I like silence a lot. So I had my Kindle, I'd loaded up 10 books in that, and I just decided if there is somebody, then all of that is very dependent on how that person dictates the pace, or if even if it's a group. So the marathon itself offered a package. You could just reach Kathmandu, take their package, you go as a group, there's a guide, porter, everything. You do the marathon, come back, and then leave Kathmandu. But then it didn't really suit my own interests. So I chose to do it on my own, just carrying my 12 kg backpack and just hiking. So many people who saw me doing on my own were very surprised, not because I was doing solo, because many people do it solo, but it's mostly Westerners. So Indian, I've seen a few men who do it on their own, but otherwise, with what I heard, I was pretty much the handful few women, Indian women who have done it.
Okay.
So they were very curious as to why I'm doing it solo, first thing. So initially I was apprehensive to share with anybody that I'm going to do the marathon. I mean, it's the mountains. I have done hikes. I have done high altitude. I've done Stok Kangri Summit in Ladakh. I've done Rupkund, quite a few high altitudes in India. But then you never know how altitude can hit you.
Right.
So you can't be overconfident and say that everything is going to be fine. So I was very privy about divulging the information that I'm going for the marathon. So I would just say, I'm just going to Everest Base Camp. That's what everyone's there for, right?
Right.
So it became this thing that people were curious why I'm doing it solo. I'm like, yeah, financially I wanted it cheap. So it gives you that privilege of spending as much as you want. You choose the hotels. So that was another factor. But the Nepalis were very curious. They were like, one guide even asked me, ma'am, you're doing alone. Okay. You're married? Everyone's very curious to know whether you're married. First thing. As soon as they see a girl, they're like, you're married. Like, yeah. You have any kids? Like, you don't want to share that much private information, but they are very innocent. They're not asking from any kind of background. So I'm like, no. No kids? Okay. And then one person even asked me, have you been in some European country or something? I'm like, yeah, why? No, this thinking is European only. Like, you don't want to have kids and all that. So there were a lot of raised eyebrows. I did meet a few Indian groups who were very supportive of what I was doing. And then while I was at Gokyo, because I stayed for so many days, the owner of the hotel was very proud. So he would tell every single person that's coming into the hotel that this is the Indian girl who's doing the marathon. And because I was asking him for information like how I can train, where I can go and things like that, he knew I was doing the marathon. So I became popular as the Indian girl who's doing the marathon. And there were people who were crossing over and going to EBC and all of it. So I've met people like after 3 days, 4 days, I that Indian girl who's doing the marathon kind of became a thing. But then, you can either draw positivity from a situation or you can feel, oh, why did this information go out?
Yeah.
I told, see, Indian name is coming out, let it be, it's okay.
Yeah.
What harm will it do, right? So many people helped me along the way. I stayed at places wherever I felt like staying, like Gokyo. So I would hike as much as required for the day. Any day except for the Chola Pass, where you had to do a lot of, there was some ice that we had to climb on and then some snow, for which I followed a group. I'm a risk taker, but I take calculated risks.
Right.
It's not like I'm strong, I'm just going to go out at night at 12 o'clock.
It's
I'm not that
important to
kind.
stay alive to do anything.
Yeah. And also I had promised my husband that he knows, like, I can be a little adventurous. So he told me that at least Chola Pass, you're going to do it with somebody. So when I was leaving my hotel, I saw an Australian girl coming with a guide, and I asked her, would you be okay if I join you? She was like, yeah. So I went and I followed them along, and then I did the pass with them. So at Gokyo is the place where I stayed for 6 nights, spent quite a lot of time. Because you're not really hiking much, I would go do my power hike or run in the morning and some in the afternoon time. I had so much time for myself. I journaled every single day. Like whatever I'm feeling, it was maybe a bird that I'm seeing, I would just write, oh, it has this kind of feathers. So I had a lot of time for internalization and reflection and thinking about everything but the run. I think sometimes it becomes too much of a pressure when you're overthinking certain things.
Right.
And anyone who's coming and who knows that there is a marathon that is going to happen, they're like, we are gasping for air just to walk. How are you going to run and all of it? So you also, there is some anxiety as well. You're never really without nerves, right? So I tried to channelize all of that and just write down everything. Even if I was feeling, so one day I went to a lake where I was very scared. I went alone because the owner assured me, and he said, no, you can go on your own. Just follow the trail. The glacier on the right and the lake on the left. Just keep going. So I just did that. So that day I was very scared. So I came back and I wrote myself the day I would have wet my pants kind of the experience. So it snowed, and then it was 10:30 in the morning, but it started snowing.
Wow.
And I'm 6.5 kilometers away. And the trail can actually get closed, right? I can't see the trail. I have to return back.
Yeah.
I'm like,
if everywhere there is snow, then you can't see the path.
Yeah. I had gone because the trail was there. So there were moments like that where you're actually thinking, what am I doing? Why did I get into this kind of things?
Right.
Lot of days. I was so tired at days when I had to do a lot of climbing with my bag. And those days I question, is it worth, like, Ash, you could have spent another 30,000, given it to a guide and porter.
Right.
So I had all of those, but all along I had my mom's thoughts, and that I want to go and see what I can do once I reach Everest Base Camp.
Right. Awesome. So you got to you had fun, you had your fears, you had your apprehensions and everything, and you reached the start point of the marathon. How did the marathon itself go?
So 2 nights that we spent there, the day we reached there, it started snowing. We reached there around 12 o'clock. We had lunch and all of that. I had a couple of friends from Bangalore who were doing the marathon, 42 kilometers. So from there on, I was just not on my own. I had people whom I knew and dear friends as well. So it snowed, and Everest Base Camp is on a glacier. You have Khumbu Glacier right next to it. And your tent is on the glacier. So you hear small cracks and all of that little movement kind of a thing. But because it snowed, and when the temperature goes down, there's no issue.
Right.
When the temperature rises and it's very sunny, that's when you hear all the cracks and little movement kind of a thing. Yeah, because it's on rocks and all of it. So that day was a little worrisome because it snowed, and next day morning we woke up to 3 inches of snow. On the tents, and there was a small hole in the tent. I was sharing my tent with a Dutch girl, and on my side there's so much of water that has come in, seeped in, and it had frozen. And I realized when I woke up in the morning that my whole nose is blocked, and so there were so many commotions which happened just before the start. We had a mock race on 28th, a day before the race, because 6 a.m. our fingers are not working, you're so cold and all that. So they do a mock race for photo ops.
Okay.
Okay, so they told us that just wear all your clothing, whatever you want to wear for the marathon. Imagine you're running today and come to the start line, and the start line banner is put at Kumbu on the glacier itself. So you have the ice fall, which is a start point for the summiters. It's put there, and all that happened. We had fun with the photos, but there's ice settled now because it had snowed. And we were like worried. You have to get out of Everest Base Camp first of all to start the run, right?
Right.
And the start line is, so Everest Base Camp is, I would say, a radius where we were staying, and all of it is maybe a kilometer kind of a thing. To the far end where the summiters were staying, it was the end of the season, pretty much summits were done. But we were staying at the start. And the start line is in the center. So from the center to come out itself is like 300-400 meters, and there are so many big rocks, and you have to it's like an obstacle course.
Right.
So most of us were worried, and then thankfully it was a good day. It got sunny and all the ice melted and all of it. So next day was a very good day. That was the biggest thing. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was the only girl in the 60K category.
Okay. You were doing not 42 but 60.
I was doing the ultra, so 60 kilometers. So there were 14 other men, 5 Nepalese and another Indian runner, Ashish Kosadekar, who's an ultra legend. He's done 61 days, 61 marathons.
Wow.
Okay, so he was there, and he's done the 555 kilometers in Ladakh. There's an event called La Ultra. So he's done 555 kilometers.
Wow.
And there were 2 finishers. He was one of them.
Wow.
So I knew the greats that I was towing the line with, and Nepalese, So you can imagine, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's cold, but then I had so much of luck on the trail. I met so many kind people. So my friends had got these warmers. So those packets which activate on their own and generate heat. So I stuck 2 of them in my hands because, so I did the whole hike and I was doing the run in my trail running shoes, not hiking shoes. Because I didn't have the privilege of carrying 2 shoes, I did in them. So, running shoes are breathable. So if it's breathable, negative temperatures, my toes were freezing and my hands those were the ones which took the hit. But then I'm also a nutcase, so I had told myself that hardens you, right? When you go through all of it.
It could literally harden you if it kind of
literally, frostbite. You can have frostbite. But then you're not really taking it that much to a limit. But I knew. So some Spanish guys that I met at Gokyo had seen me struggle. So there's a peak called Gokyori where you climb, and that's where I saw Everest for the first time. Fact I didn't know was Everest Base Camp doesn't have a view of Everest because you're under it,
right?
And there's the peak, and you have Nuptse blocking Everest. So when I was going up, they saw me struggle. So they asked me, "Are you okay?" And it was 4:30 in the morning, and my fingers and my toes were freezing. So standing there, and I'm just rubbing profusely, and they noticed. And next day when they were leaving, they left me toe warmers.
Wow.
So I consider myself very lucky to have such kind people. The world is filled with a lot of kind people. Probably just because we've not met them or we've not experienced it, we always think that it's a cruel world. There's criminals everywhere and all of it. But yeah, I met a lot of people who were really nice to me. So at the start line, I have a full arm t-shirt, full arm pant, and a down jacket upon the marathon t-shirt that they'd given us. And I have my hydration vest in which I could carry my down jacket if I needed to, along with 1 liter of water. And I had some gels for the route. And I looked to my side. Nepalese guys, they are in shorts, like 3 inches shorts, and not even full arm. It was, I would say, micro sleeves. And just jumping around. I'm like, my God.
Typical running wear. Right?
Yeah. And they started off 6 a.m. We started. I was probably the last one to leave Everest Base Camp because just getting out itself was scary for me, and I took my time and somehow found my rhythm. First 10 kilometers is technical. You're on the glacier, a lot of uphills, downhills, and all of it. And then the trail opens up. You have places where you can run. You want to run, but then the altitude reminds you that, okay, beta, don't jump too much. This is what it is. So yeah, it happened, and we had a cutoff at 5 hours. We had to cross 23.5 kilometers within that time. Otherwise, you would be disqualified. After that, you could take your time to finish. And if you choose to stay the night, then it would be a penalty of 3 hours.
Okay.
Like some people don't want to do it at night and things like that. That was the thing. So yeah, I had so many moments during the race where I questioned why I'm doing this. I was cold, I was tired. There was no food on course, which I expected, which they had told that at 40 kilometers you would have food station, and I go there and there is nothing. So yeah, a lot of things happened, but I was so happy to see the finish line. So 2.5 hours in the darkness, just with the lamp. So we had runners assigned to us at that 5-hour mark to take us to the finish line. So Nepalese, I wouldn't want to make it a blame game, but then it was a Sherpa who was a porter who was assigned to me, and they're very, very talented and good and strong at carrying weight, but they're not fast. They walk very slow.
Okay.
So even when I was like intending to run, so what they had done was, because there was a runner with you, they did not mark the trail.
Oh.
Until then, there were orange ribbons everywhere, and the orange ribbons were there, but very sparingly. Somewhere you would see it,
Right.
and there would be multiple routes, and I'm like, I have to stop, and I'm like, kahan jana hai, and all of that. And he was tired.
Yeah.
Like, poor guy, he was tired. And with whatever scenarios, I managed to finish it at 9:40 in the night. I was so happy, I can't tell you. I think it was the toughest race of my life till date, but something that I'll cherish my whole life.
Amazing. I can totally understand why it would be the toughest race so far. But I am sure you will be, itching to sign up for tougher challenges, knowing you.
At the moment, no.
At the moment, no.
We'll see.
Fresh
I think
off the
that's
challenge,
That's
right?
the thing about human spirit, right?
Right.
When you're doing something very hard, you're like, I am never going to do this again. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've done these Malnad, the TOK and all of it, where you have killer climbs and you're like, why do this?
Well,
But next year you sign up. Isn't
yeah,
it?
while on Kalhati, I said, no, never again.
Exactly. So that's how human spirit is.
Right.
We thrive on challenges.
Yeah.
As much as we think we want comfort, we are a race who thrive on challenges, and
Yeah.
I think we do well when we are under challenges.
Agree. Oh, this has been fantastic chat. I'm kind of mind blown with the kind of stuff you have done so far. But what next for you?
So July 2nd, I have the opportunity to toe the line with the best ultra runners of the country and represent India in the 24 Hours Asia Oceania Championship.
Wow.
So it's happening in Bangalore at Kantirava Stadium.
Home ground.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how things go, because since I've come back, I hope this episode doesn't go up before the championship. But, we have a selection committee who are very mindful and cautious. They caution me that I should not exhaust myself because you have a championship. And yeah, you are representing the country and you want to be in top form. So one of the reasons why I didn't push myself like to the limit and just did it very conservatively was that I have another race coming up. But I'm very excited. So I've had the opportunity to wear the tricolor 3 times now, but all have been virtual. Because of COVID, we've done 6-hour solidarity runs every year from 2020. This is the first time that it will really happen. So I'm looking forward to it and see how things go.
Yeah, I'm sure you will do well. All the best for that.
Thank you
To
so
kind
much.
of kind of conclude the session, what are some of the tips that you would give working athletes to do well at sport and work?
You know what? I can't say I'm someone who can give advice, but with my own experience, I feel that we shouldn't take everything very seriously. Sometimes that can cause stress. We might think that this is all that matters and that might push us over the edge. So keep it light, have some humor, see where you can find some joy, find your group. Even if you are somebody who is not into fitness at all, who is overweight, who has issues and all of that, but who want to do something, start small. Many times what happens is people take their target to the to the stadium kind of a thing, to the big stage, and you falter. So don't sign up for the gym for 1 year. Instead, start with walks. If you can keep that up for 1 week, then maybe have a target of maybe I want to walk for 5 kilometers or for 1 hour. And if you can be consistent with that for maybe 3 months, then go ahead and invest your time and commit. Instead of thinking, oh, I have these things doctor has told me I have to do, and I'm going to invest, I'm going to get a cycle, I'm going to cycle every day, but I've seen that doesn't happen many times. If it does, I'm happy and I congratulate you, but if not, and accept that there will be obstacles. There will be times when you can't do what you want to do, you can't stick to your plan. Family things will come in the way, work will come in the way, but be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
There have been times when I have been very self-critical and I've told myself, why are you not doing your run? You have to do your run. You have something coming up. But then something else was more important. So if we can learn to sort those things and prioritize and know what is important at what moment. I'm not saying family is important always. I'm saying when it is important, we should be able to figure out, because they are the most integral part of you and everything that you do is through them. So keep them close, keep your friends close, and wish everyone the best.
Awesome. This has been awesome. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your wonderful journey with the Working Athlete podcast.
Thank you so much. And this is the first time I've been so open on a podcast. I'm still wondering how that happened, but I must credit you for giving me that open platform to be expressive. So thank you so much and wish you luck. And I hope to come ride with you someday. I've been wanting to.
Sure, let's do that.
Again, like Peter, I will not be able to keep up with you.
No, I'll let you set the pace. I'll draft you.
That should be good. That should be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vink.
That was my conversation with Ashwini. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to the channel on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.